and it's a session about client management and project management. Now, I don't know who's ever thought of their life as a project. Anyone? Anyone? Oh, okay, we all YOLO guys. So who's ever thought of your own life as a project? Like something you need, project, think of it in the terms of something that you need to plan about and do specific things. Who's ever thought, taken that attitude or approach towards life, towards their own life? No one. Oh, wow. Okay, wow. Then you should really sit in for Kate's session because she says she's a student of life. Karibu, Kate.
Thank you. Good morning. My name's Kate Kiguru. Yes, I'm a student of life. So what I'll be sharing today are lessons I've learned along my entrepreneurship journey, and they've worked for me. So I hope they work for you. So I've never been trained as a project manager. I've never really done client relations management. I'm a techie. I'm a software developer. Some of you, well, I'm seeing very many new faces, but the older team at the back, some of them I've met them because this is where I started. When iHub launched, I was one of the first people to walk into the iHub. And at that time, I was looking for other people, other fellow students who are hungry about tech and people who, yeah, so I was looking for an environment like people who are ready to learn and do what I had in mind then. And iHub was the first opening ground, and it gave me that confidence to actually step out. I was employed as a software engineer, working in the banking industry, developing apps on POS terminals. I'm sure all of us have used cards or we transact using cards. So I was working on the POS terminals, and it got to a point where it was boring for me. It wasn't giving me fulfillment, and my boss would never fire me. I knew that. So I wanted to get out and challenge myself with something. And like many of us, I still wasn't clear on what is that I want to do. But through events and meeting people out there and observing what's going on, I realized we had a gap in the security industry. There's somebody who asked a question like, why don't clients have money? It's a question I might be able to answer maybe going forward, because it's something I dug deeper into, and I got to understand that sometimes we assume when we are starting a project, oh, the client will have money, they'll pay, but we never go beyond what we see on their face. And I'll just start with my journey basically from when I started or when I decided to step out and start learning. I realized there was a gap in the security industry. I'm sure you've seen motorbikes running around with supervisors stopping by your gates to confirm whether the guard is on duty, whether he's smartly dressed, and then they record something and leave. So typically the security industry hires supervisors to do this work. They say if you have a security company that employs 3,000 guards, they'll hire about 100 supervisors, and these supervisors are tasked with the responsibility of ensuring the other 2,900 guards reported where they were expected to be across the country, reported on time, they are smartly dressed, and that they stay up until the end of the shift. This is a very difficult, and not just difficult in terms of running around and trying to record all those, it's also a very expensive process. So if I come to you today and I tell you I'm going to deploy a security guard at your gate and I want you to pay 30,000 for me to ensure that guard is present every day, how many of you will pay 30,000 to have a security guard? How many of you will pay 20,000? No? How much will you pay? Okay, somebody is saying some of you will not even afford a security guard. Anyway, security, I think it's a very important part because if if you're not secured, you work so hard and then somebody one day just decides to come and wipe out your house with everything, then you go back and it's wasted effort. So some of us love that comfort of just knowing there is somebody at the gate, but we do not want to worry much about how much it will cost to have such a guard. I'll give you, I would pay 30,000. I don't pay, but I would pay 30,000. In a typical security company, that is what ideally they will charge a client. And this is because the guard has to be paid. And before I even bring that guard, I need to train him. I need to buy him uniform. I need to make sure he has backup so that if he falls sick one day or is not able to make it to work, there's somebody who can step in for him. I also need to make sure there is somebody checking on him. Did he get there on time? Are there problems? So this person needs to be paid for this person who I'll call a supervisor to get where the guard is. They need a motorbike. So if I don't have a motorbike, I need to have bought a motorbike or found someone to give me a motorbike to get my supervisor there. The motorbike needs fuel to run to get the supervisor to the site. So out of your 30,000, I'm paying a supervisor, I'm paying a security guard, I'm probably paying a loan for the motorbikes I've picked up somewhere, and I still have an office. Remember, this is a business. I want to make money. So I still need a little bit of a profit margin to be able to pay the staff that I'm, managing the office and running, and still have a little bit for myself. So how much do you think I can afford to pay a guard if you paid me 30,000 and do all other things? Anyway, that's the typical picture of how the security industry in Kenya operates. And now for you to be able to get over that, you need big numbers, like you need 3,000 plus, ideally, to make a profitable business out of it. And I thought, what if we took away the supervisor and use technology to replace the supervisor, like have the guard check in themselves, report on everything that is happening? Then I don't need a motorbike, I don't need a supervisor. It will cut those costs, and then maybe if I'm able to make a bit better of a margin, I'll be able to pay my guard better, and he'll be motivated to actually stay on the job instead of every time he's running and I have to keep recruiting, which again is an extra cost. And that's basically the background of where I started. And I didn't have all this information like many of you when you're trying to build or to work on a project. So all I had was this idea of I think the security companies are big, they have money, they're going to, if I do a project that works in the security industry, I'm going to make these whole loads of money. But I think it was just one of those lessons that helped me like get out and actually understand what they do to be able to offer them the solution. We've talked a lot about UX. By the time UX lab started, I was long exited. So utilize the UX lab, then it will save a bit of cost because I've had to do UX while still trying to make money from the projects I've been working on. So I came up with an idea to build a mobile application to solve the problem I've just explained. But then it was just me I can code, I'm not very sure. And especially being a female, how do I go into a security company, a big security company, and tell them, I know you have this problem and I have a solution for it? It wasn't going to work. So I needed an industry expert who would validate my idea and then help me to get that first client. So I met my business partner who I've been building the business on. He came here about 19 years to run one of the big security companies. And when I spoke to him, I told him, this is what I want to do, but I don't know if you will pay for it. I don't know if anyone will buy my solution, but I need to get it there because I know it's a solution that will help change this industry. And I don't know what else needs to be done. Can you tell me what else needs to be done? And fortunately, he welcomed me to their company, and I remember when I built the first prototype. Now, for me to get to, present something, I had to build my first mobile app. We all know, like, even today, most security guards can't afford a smartphone yet. So now I'm trying to build a mobile app for security guards, and I know they don't have. This was back in 2011. So I decided, anyway, I'll build it. By the time I finish, maybe we'll have affordable phones. But I went wrong because I started on the Symbian OS. So the Nokia phone that I was using was about 13,000. That's way more than even the salary for most of the guards. So they could not afford that. But I knew it was a solution, and one day it was going to come, to work. If it doesn't work for them, it will work for somebody else. But I'll still use the industry to validate my project. So I built it and I went and I presented, and they were like, yes, that sounds amazing, but now you're telling us for us to verify the security guards, we need to have a database where we have all their details, and we have everything, including their photos. And I said, yes, you need that. They told me, we don't have that in a database. Somewhere we have it on paper and some on Excel. And I thought, okay, now here is another amazing opportunity to first take away paper, we move it to the database. And I told them, okay, I'll start with that. And I started building a basic HR system. I got an offer for my first, I told them, okay, I'm going to build this project. This is not what I planned to do, but I'll build it, and I think it would cost you this much. And they told me, okay, go ahead. I started working on a project that I had no idea of the start or how it's going to end, but I built anyway. And I said, give me X. Okay, I got my first check of 300,000, and for me that was a lot of money. And I thought, I'm gonna use this 300,000, and then hopefully by the time it's finished, because I don't have any staff or any costs to much cost to cover, hopefully I'll have found another project before it's over. Otherwise, I'm going to quit on this and go back on the job. So, and this is a mistake a lot of us work. You're given an opportunity, you're told, okay, we want to build this, can you do it? And it's very human to say, yes, I can do that. And I would say yes, even if you don't know, somehow you'll figure it out. So I told them, yes, I'll do, just pay me this and I'll try. So I was giving myself at most 3 months to try and get a whole HR running, a whole HR and payroll running in a security company with 300,000, zero staff, just me. And I told them, okay, now I don't know how HR works. I need to learn how to be a HR. So I said, I'm a student of life. And I told them, can I come in and work in your HR department, see what kind of paper they use, see how they do things, then I'll take all that paper and put it in the system. And that's how basically I started building on our now fully integrated MIS we call UP. So I did that. I finished within the second month, I was almost ready to start piloting the the payroll as well. So we started moving the data with the team, training them. But then we got to the third month. I want to almost give up and go back to my mobile app and leave them to, use this and then give me feedback. But they wouldn't let me go. So they said, no, stay on, keep building, use the system. So at some point, I became a user. And I remember in my 3 months are over, no more money coming in. 6 months later, I'm in the company, finished the project, but now using the system I built to pay their guards. And at that point is when I realized, well, I need to exit. And I remember there's a space called uh, iHub. I need to exit and, go away and leave them to use the system so that I can carry on building. And around that time, the iHub the NILAB had launched. So I came into the NILAB and I told them, I got this product. I've just finished building it. I need to move to the next level. I need to continue working on my mobile app. And the environment where I am at is not healthy. I even got a job offer to stay in there. So I told them, no, I'm not an employee. I want you to use that system. Tell me how it works so that I can be able to move it somewhere else. So I came and stayed at the NILAB, and that's where I worked from until 2013 when we moved to our offices. So during that time, what I got, well, I didn't get money. I didn't get enough money, but I got to understand how the industry works, and I got very scared because I knew every other security company I'll talk to, I'll have the same problem. I'll be told, oh, we don't have money, the clients haven't paid in good time, we need to pay the guards first, we don't have money to buy the phones you need. So, but I thought, well, now you've helped me build a product that I can actually use to get to the other company that can afford to pay. But meanwhile, I'll keep working on a solution as I wait for you to afford money to buy phones for guards. I will not give up. So I moved with the product, and this is one of the biggest mistakes as a tech entrepreneur I made. I got an offer. I knew I wanted to focus on the security industry with the understanding, or I thought, after the first company, now I know how they run. I've moved to a second one. The second one, I did not have to customize the system. I just installed, and within a week we were running, just doing our upgrade this week since 2011. The clients just come back to us for an upgrade of the system, and it's been running very well for all those years. So I thought, well, I need to make money, so let me try this project in another industry. And I took on the vehicle manufacturing industry. This is completely different from the security industry. A typical scenario where you're assembling a bus and you have to raise, it's a very let me just say it's a very complex kind of setup where you pay employees for tasks they've done. So if you're building a 40-seater bus, you start by creating a contract, raising, and all those things. I spent an entire year on one project. And it got to a point I thought, no, this learning is never ending. And I already billed for a project and nobody is paying me. Yes, I am learning, but how many more vehicle companies will I get to justify all this learning time I'm spending? And I remember after 1 year, I decided, I think it's time to close out this project. It's not making me money, and I think it's very complex. It's a very difficult situation to get into, but this is one of the best things you'll ever have to do. Like the minute as an entrepreneur, there's always this gut feeling that tells you, exit, it's time to go. If you ever get that feeling, exit, because chances are you will continue. Now you start actually investing instead of the project paying you. You end up investing, and then whether it's really worth, then it's another decision depending on what it is you're building. But if you get to a point where you feel, it's time to exit, and sometimes it has nothing to do with the size of the project. There are so many things in between. You'll find some users don't want to change. Some people are just not ready. There are so many things that, will come in between. Sometimes it could be project funding. So you get to a point the client doesn't have money to carry on or to pay you, and you have a team that needs to be paid, then it's a choice. Do you want to invest in the client, or do you want to step out and let the client sort? So it's a very hard balance. But at this point, I would almost say, when you get to that point, fire that client, because what you do is you get so much more free time to focus on something that you were probably missing an opportunity on, and that you'd probably get on very easily. So I got to that point at some point during my journey, and it was a very tough lesson or tough decision for me. But fortunately, I was in the process of training my first employee, and I decided, I'll leave you there. It's not gonna cost me much. Just let me keep investing on that project, and then I moved back to my security industry. So I moved back in 2013, and by then, the Android wave had just kicked in, and people had started affording smartphones. I did not know how to code on Android, but I thought I'm gonna have to learn and keep up with the technology. I need GPS and I need a camera feature for my app to work. And I know the numbers are limited, but I'm hopeful. The other problem we still have in this country is internet connectivity. But that never stopped me, because I say when I did my UX for my target industry, they said, we have security guards in very remote places. Some of those places we are never even able to send our supervisors. So if a supervisor can't get there, we don't need internet or connectivity to work. We just assume that guard will stay there. So because they are paid for the days they work, such guards will just be marked as present every day. So we just assume they are present whether they are there or not. And that was encouraging for me to keep working on. But it's a problem now. We've gotten over. Having an offline version handles that. So in 2013, I got back on my baby project that I now call Akida. Akida is a mobile app that basically addresses staff attendance verification, where now the guards or the mobile workers check in using a photo, and we pick the location and the daytime information, and we are able to track the movements of the mobile workforces. But in 2013, the security industry still had a very big challenge in terms of devices acquisition. And I remember during one of my workshops or journeys, I was sitting with a team in the US. I was invited by World Bank for a mobile entrepreneurship workshop, and I told them, this is what I've been trying to do, and this is the problem we have. And fortunately, it wasn't just in Kenya, because we had other mobile entrepreneurs from different countries. We're working so hard. We know what we want to do, but we can't afford smartphones. We have problems with connectivity, but we are hopeful it's going to change. And they said, well, you might be talking to the wrong industry. There are people who probably would use the solution, but then they don't know about it. We could help you with that. So in 2013, I got somebody from World Bank came down and did a video. It's on YouTube. It's called Busting Ghost Workers. And it was just a feature of me and my security guard. So I've done UI. Remember, I'm a developer. But now for me to make sure the product works for my users, I've always had to be on the ground. So when I did the first version of the Android app, I was faced again with another problem of having to train security guards, not how to use the app, but how to use a smartphone. So I used to go on night shift most of the time. I've sat in patrol cars at night. This is what you have to sacrifice in some cases to get what you want in terms of projects. So sometimes it's not about, the money you have. When you're doing a project, you have to look at the whole picture. So I was comfortable to sit in a patrol car, go teach a security guard how to charge a phone, and then how to check themselves in. And they would call me at night, oh, I don't know, my phone was doing, no, it's not. Then, so I used to sleep with my phone. I remember I was hosting the platform with a local company, and they used to restart the server. I'd never told them what I was doing on their server. So, and they had no idea of what I was building. So sometimes they would imagine everybody is asleep and restart their server, and then my guards are trying to check in or report. So when the guards call, the first thing I used to do was log in. If I'm able to log in, then I know, no, it's a problem to do with this. So I would listen, and they would tell me, okay, I don't know what I did. But and a lot of the problems, I'd say, in the initial stages were to do with, some of them would disable data. So he's trying to log in, he can't log in. He put his phone on flight mode. So now I have to get the phone to to check if the phone is on flight mode, switch it back to, it was, but it gave me so much that I needed to know in terms of enhancing the product. And then in 2013, late 2013, after now the YouTube feature that World Bank helped me with, that was partly supposed to support my marketing campaign, I got a call from a South African lady. She's Kenyan, and she was looking for a solution that would just not address the problem of, knowing the staff are out there. They had a problem with collecting data. And I'm thinking, this is, it's, I thought there are solutions for this. And she told me, no, we've been collecting data on paper, and we are growing, and it's becoming impossible. Is there something you can do on that app that can help us collect real-time data? And then at least once we have the data, we'll figure it out. So, I knew she wanted us to get into the analytics, but I never thought about analytics. I don't know what that is. But if you help us collect the data, we'll teach you what analytics is, and we'll teach you what data is about. And I said, okay, I'll give it a try. And I started now building an additional feature on the project. I had almost closed the project, and my project had ended at, the app allows staff to check in and they can do a basic report. But now I'm being asked to do a feature to allow create mobile surveys that will allow capture audio and photos, so that they have visibility as to what's happening on the ground. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And I started working on it, and I spent sleepless nights. This is one client giving me a whole loads of work I'd never thought about. But then while I was doing it, I started talking to other people that could use it. And I thought, well, if I invest in the time, it might pay off in another way. So I invested in the time, developed the feature, started testing it. Again, back to the Kenyan market, not ready, oh, we don't have phones. So sometimes you might do something very good, it works, but then you'll find you have a lot of, challenges deploying your solutions. It has nothing to do with your project, you finished, but the users are not ready, you don't have the right infrastructure. Then what do you do? What you do? Okay, now for me, what happened, or maybe I was just lucky, is I sat with my client and I told them, I've done this, it's working, we've tested, we've been on the ground, but I'm not making progress, I'm not moving, your users are not collecting the data. Can you send me somewhere, or can you give me another person who's ready to use the solution I've built, because I've come this far? And she told me, okay, I'll send you to Nigeria if you're ready to go there. Now we know how. Yeah. So and yeah, Nigerians. I say actually Nigerians are amazing people. They're my biggest users and consumer of the platform so far. But remember, when I was sent to Nigeria in June 2016, I got. Oh, sorry. June 2014, and I went and met my first client. I met a South African, and he told me he was the country manager then, and he told me, first, I know I'm not very loud, and he told me, this is the situation here, as part of the orientation, people, hit, people have phones. Everybody has a smartphone, but they don't know what it is for. So whatever you're coming to introduce, be open-minded. It could be accepted, or they might not want if they know what it's going to do. But they do. It's big numbers, and they collect a lot of data. And people here don't know how to speak in low tones. So if I put you in a room and they're all shouting, don't run away. That's just how they speak. So and I did that. And when I went for the meeting, I was in a room of about 5 of them, like they call them project managers. Now these are project managers who are responsible of big teams that are out in the field collecting data, and they coordinate these teams. They ensure the teams are, or the teams are where they're expected to be in good time. Then the teams bring back their manual surveys, they key the data, they analyze, and they report to the clients. So they were supposed to tell me how they do their things, and then I showed them how to do it using an app. And it wasn't easy at first, and I was so scared. When I came back, I knew I was never going back to Nigeria. I have never gone back to Nigeria, but my teams have occasionally been going down. I was scared, but I knew we had a solution that would work for them. So and that's where now we get into um, client management. So sometimes it's, you've done the project, it's not about the project anymore. Now you get into managing the client or managing the users. So the client is the owner of the company. They want change, they're ready for change, but you have users who are so accustomed to doing things in a certain way, they're just not welcome to any sort of technology. uh, it's it for me, what happened is, when I realized I could never communicate with them, I asked for a contact person, just one. And I told them the easiest way to go around this, just give me one person that I can work with. That person translated to, oh, after a month, he quit, handed over to another person, because I became very tough on my communication. I am very much behind the screen. We'll talk on Skype. I hate phone calls, and I would never take phone. If I see a phone call from Nigeria to date, I freak out, because then I know. So I make sure things are working so that I never get a phone call from Nigeria. But I boiled them down to having to keep it on Skype or WhatsApp if I'm away, or for whatever reason I'm on mobile and I'm able to respond on WhatsApp. But I try to keep it on Skype. It's an old tool, but it works. And everything I've done over since now 2014, grown in numbers. I got 2 more clients in Nigeria within the same industry using, and I've never had to be on the ground. I use Skype, and I only have one user in each of these organizations who is responsible of reporting anything that all the other users are going through. Oh, we have a problem here, and some of them are just small training issues. So what I made my Nigerian client think was they were the only client I had. So I'm always available on Skype. You ask me something, I will drop everything else and respond when it's a client. They feel like they felt at some point they were the only client I had, and I got their attention, and things worked very well. And some of the users that left that organization were actually the users that went and introduced it to other companies that they moved on to. And I think this, when you talk about client management, this is one of the biggest things you have to do. It's not easy, but if you can find like and looking now at all the clients that I've had to deal with, if you identify just that one person, because the minute you have so many users in the organization, everybody will have their own different, this one doesn't want this one wants it that way. So you start by identifying one key person. Sometimes it could take time, but if they're not the right person, chances are they will exit and you will find the other person that is ready to do it. Stick with that person, then work on the communication. Phone calls for me are very destructive because I still occasionally do a bit of code. So I have a document, I call it a technical call sheet. When you're doing an IT project, even to date, chances are things will crop up. It's either a new request or a user doesn't know how to go about something, or maybe it's a bug that you never saw that needs to be fixed. If the project was working, don't drop everything else you're trying to do to fix that. There's nothing urgent in IT. It's taken me a very long time, but now I know how to say no. I don't take phone calls, support phone calls. I keep everything on the technical call sheet. So it's a simple Google document that I have with every of my clients. So if there is an issue, you add all the users in the different departments, and they can log that. Or you have just that one responsible person to log that. And what that forces users is accountability. So you'll not just write something and again have an SLA with every of the clients you have. An SLA draws a line like, this is what we agreed we are doing. Anything beyond that is either a new request, or if you want support, if it's a training issue, then that's not my responsibility, you pay for it. So work with the SLAs, they tie the client, and they also force the users to be responsible. So a user will not just log something because they know it has a cost implication to them. So if you close out on the project, make sure that is in place. And then, when it comes to accountability, then you don't have issues. Oh, I called, I said, I told so and so. So I don't do that, and none of my team members takes phone calls from any of our clients. Everything is, if it's not through me on Skype, so in as much as I code or I still do a little bit of everything, my the first contact person for my clients is myself, because I understand the journey and I know what I'm working towards. So if it's a Skype, it will come through me. Unless I'm not able to respond, then one of my colleagues is able to pick up on that. If it's a new request, just keep it on the technical document. Chances are one of the team members will pick up. And if it's a bug that needs that urgent attention, then we'll work on that and revert. Then that frees you up of, the hassle of waking up with stress, emails, oh, I have to do this project. It makes your life lot more easier. What else would I think? I think, well, I have so much I could share, but I think for me, I would take this chance to open up for any specific questions that you might have around that. Then I'll probably be able to respond based on the questions you ask. Anything you might think about uh, relating project management and client management. Question?
Thank you. My name is Paul. I was wondering, which metrics do you use to charge a project? How do you know this project should cost like 3 million or 500,000?
Okay. I'd say for me, it's never the same, and none of my clients has ever paid the same. It depends really on what you're looking for. I've had to compromise in most cases in terms of the costing. You look at the value you're getting. Sometimes the client will give you access to more than just, I can afford to pay X, but if you do this, in return, you'll be able to get this. So there are projects that you look at the value. Like I would never know, I never knew how the NGOs worked. I never knew how the marketing firms worked. If I had to learn that, it meant me investing in time. Before I'm able to offer you a solution, I need to understand how your business works for me to give you a solution. So sometimes when you get a client who's ready to work with you or meet you halfway, then you compromise on the cost. And then there are costs that you really don't need to bill for, because you'll never know where the project could take you. For instance, a client tells you, I have operations in country ABC, I want to start in A, but if you finish, then I'm going to put you in B and C. There's no way I'm going to start worrying about costing for B and C if I'm going to deploy the same project in B and C. So I'll work and I'll focus on making the project work in project A, country A. Then the client will, when I get to project B or country B, if it's the same project, then I'm not costing for that project, but the client worries about the flights, the accommodation, where the team stays. So those are not things you can build in a project, and it can be very expensive, especially when you haven't drawn the end of the project. So there are costs that you totally do not want to put in a project. Let the client worry about everything else. Focus on the product and just focus on billing for the time you'll spend against what they really want. Then chances are, if it's a product that you're going to deploy to another client, then you're actually gaining more value than the client is paying for. So it's always in most cases it's a trade-off. But I would always advise never try to build, especially if you're building or working on a project where you have to deploy away or offsite. Never ever try to put in costs of accommodations and flights in such a project. Those are costs you leave to the client to worry about. You just focus on the project itself. It makes it a lot easier. Yeah.
I have one. Okay, I have one question. The question is the focus now on the forum is about the Jumpstart. Yeah. Now, for example, maybe there are some who are trying to develop the apps and maybe develop a website, and at the end of the day, some have gotten venture capitalist funds. So the bottom line is about the return on investment and also to pay back. So which is part of the project management. So can you just on a basic platform, because some of the things can be outsourced. Maybe there's a developer of an API, but it's not maybe very polished to develop that. So you can outsource. Because as per what I'm hearing from you, maybe you did not maybe outsource where there was a really real challenge. It was okay for PR purpose. You are putting off the phone using the Skype. But there are some clients sometimes who want one-on-one feedback on some of the issues. So in a nutshell, what will it entail for any Jumpstart developer who wants to develop an e-commerce basic website to be paid through the normal basic payment platform that we have, which is the Paybill, the M-Pesa, the Visa card, and the MasterCard. And also to develop an app, a basic app that can work, which can be integrated regardless of the concept. Because different concepts, different customers have got different needs and they want different solutions. But for those different solutions, as you customize, I think that's where the pricing factor comes in. Because if it is an integrated platform or it has got added value features, maybe on your pricing, you'll add that. But for a basic, startup, because we are focusing on the startup, for a startup to have, an entrepreneur to have a basic e-commerce website, which is developed to be integrated with an app so that they can still be paid on the same regardless of the service. What will it cost on a basic perspective?
Okay, I know I didn't touch on partnerships, and I believe that's why people like IBM are here. They're here for startups. They've been there for us. When you know what you're building, chances are it's out there and somebody is ready to invest on that. I've also been on my end, I've not had to develop everything that I'm using currently. I partnered with Microsoft for Africa after I launched my first version of the Android app. And what the partnership gave me was not just access to the tools and resources I needed, but even to actual human resource. And that's something that Microsoft are doing. I don't know if some of you are aware of that. So Microsoft for Africa has a program where they work with startups that are developing on their platforms. So I didn't code my first version of the Windows app. I needed it, but for me, it wasn't an investment I was ready to do, and none of my clients was ready to invest in that either. And the reason being simple, like by a show of hands, like how many of you have Windows phones here? The rest of you, iOS? One? Android? Yeah, exactly. So I focused on building a solution where my clients could afford the phones. But then Microsoft wanted the same app on Windows. So I told them, this is it. I know I'm going to go outside somewhere where people will need the Windows version, but none of my clients will be willing to pay for an entire app to be developed, and I'm not ready to invest in that either. But if we have that version, then chances are you might, at that point they were trying to move devices to masses. And Windows is big in Nigeria. Like they have a reasonable market share in Nigeria. So Microsoft sent me 2 resources from Egypt, and I worked for 2 weeks with their developers. And it was just a replica of the Android app, and we moved it to the Windows version, and that was done. Then last year when I was working or trying to figure out data, so I've collected a lot of data. Now it's time to figure out, like the client now is asking me, what for custom reports, and I started that's when now analytics started dawning to me. And then Microsoft had just launched their Power BI platform that does analytics. It's not popular, but it was going to be easy for me because having hosted all my data on their cloud, then it's easier to integrate with an analytics platform that works on their platform. So I called them and I told them I need a resource. I need a Power BI resource. So they have again another project called My Skills for Africa. So My Skills for Africa is basically a network of Microsoft employees from all over the world who are willing to give up their time either virtually or in country, and teach, share their experiences, teach startups on how to use their products, or just about anything, UX, UI, business development. So again, I called out for help. My Skills for Africa, do you have somebody that can help me on analytics, because I can't do analytics, but my clients need analytics for the data they've been collecting. And again, I got two resources. Last September, I got someone from Israel and somebody from Seattle come in. So in as much as we are sitting and trying to do everything, and I believe that's what IBM Smart Camp is here. They're here for the platforms, they have the tools, they have the resources. Don't try to develop anything. If I tried to go to analytics, it's a whole different project and it's big. Even Microsoft themselves have not finished developing it, and it's costed them, I believe, billions of money that I would never afford or get to, and none of my clients would be willing to pay such a price. But then when you integrate with such platforms that are already working and have already been tested, it takes away the stress of worrying about that. You're still providing a holistic solution. The client will pay for that, and I've not had to code anything. So we have depending on the type of product you're working on, look out for tools that can integrate with, pay that little amount, then it saves you a whole lot of, product development time and trying to pass on the cost to the client. Use whatever is already there and then work with the experts in that area. And then if you're a startup, look out. iHub has the contacts for people who are always looking out for startups and good projects they can work with. That's why they are here. It's an open space. Walk in, share with them what you're trying to achieve, and they might already have a solution for you. Yeah, so there are different ways to go away from having to carry the burden or the entire project cost by using what's already there.
Hi,
Hi.
thanks for the great presentation. My first question regarding client management is like when you have like these clients from different countries and you sign agreements with them, you basically an organization, you are registered here in Kenya, and then like the enforcement, like either within the law of Kenya regarding maybe negotiations that you get into. So how have you found a common level agreement with some companies like from South Africa, and then in the event that either they are not able to meet their end of the bargain, which law protects you in the agreement? The other thing is that there are the different companies. What emphasis would you put on a needs assessment? Like a client wants something, they think they need that, so they come to you. We need this and this and this and this and this, and you realize before you really are able to say, I need 1 month or 3 months to do this, there are some other organizations that are involved. Like you need to talk to the person they have been doing this project probably with. There are some other companies that have a kind of determining times. There are information that they don't have, and you need to talk to these other partners of theirs to be able to say, if I get this by this time, then the project will be completed by that time. So the importance of a needs assessment, how have you been able to? And then in case they readjust, because sometimes some companies, you find they come and they're thinking, okay, we think can take like 3 months, or like we have this project, it will take us like 3 months. Then when you start to work, they realize that you have done the work in like 3 weeks. Then now they come to you, that kind of proposing a contract for 3 months. Then they say, now you see, we can we just pay you for the first month since this work has taken this long? How have you handled that? Then the third question is regarding, you talked about Symbian OS, that experience. Looking at the Kenyan market with the Android penetration, what are like the must skills, especially if you want to transfer a web application to a mobile app? Like, would you recommend PHP skills? Would you recommend, what are some of the basic skills that you have found very meaningful and at this point in time would be meaningful for someone?
if I answer your last question, I'll be very biased. So I'll leave it to the. Okay, I'm a .NET developer. So I'm a .NET developer. So everything. If I had to sleep and start a new project today, it would be just on Windows. So Java, I've done Java in the past, but for me it was a little bit too much and complex, and it didn't give me so much flexibility. But I always say, if as a developer, once you identify like your language or where you're best placed, you can be good at it. I employ developers. And one of the things, of course, when they come for the interview, they imagine I'm a salesperson, I don't know how to code. And I listen to them and they give me stories of I can do a little PHP, Java, this, they can do a little bit of everything. That is a person I will never ever hire. If you come to me and tell me I am an Android developer and I can never do anything else, I'm only on that, chances are if I don't have work for you, I might be able to recommend you to someone else. I know how much it takes from experience to master a language and be good at it. So it depends on where you started and where your interest is in. And I believe you can achieve anything using a language that you have an interest in. My first application was a desktop application. The human resource system was a desktop application until I got to a point where the mobile application needed a web interface and I didn't have any web developers in-house. But then I knew I needed to have control of the projects because developers will come and go. Well, I've not been unfortunate to lose many because I work with them very well. But you cannot rule out that the only person that will remain, especially if you're a founder, you have to think about long term. So if everybody in the organization left, can I carry on with this project? So for me, the first option I went for was somebody who's good at ASP.NET. And we are very limited in terms of Microsoft platform developers. We have very few of. So I got one, but he was employed elsewhere, and that didn't work for me very well because I have live users and they want things changed. And the developer is busy doing something else. That's another challenge when it comes to outsourcing, especially when you're building a product from the initial stages. But it did help me because it gave me it allowed me time to learn. I got a developer who had just graduated from school with basic .NET skills, and I told him, well, this outsourced developer is working on this. We're going to start learning ASP.NET from how to create a login page. And I have no regrets about that. I had to learn. It was easy because I was already good at VB.NET. So moving to the web was much easier, and at the same time I had something running. So just focus on what you're good at. Forget about programming languages. You ask my clients what that project is built on, they don't care. They don't know what PHP or Java is. They just want a working system. So just focus on what works for you, and also think about long term in terms of support. If you went for ASP, if there was no resource available, would you be able to do it yourself? So just and I think in the tech space, like a lot of the developers I've met around here, most of them are very good in PHP and Java. So that's not my area. So just as long as the product works, forget about the language. Yeah. Your other question was on. Yeah. Mhm. 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 Uh, uh, yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Okay. In terms of managing the legals, I'd say I've not really encountered that, and partly is because in all the countries where we have presence now, we have like a contract with, or if they're not, if the contract is not with, the contract is not in the country where we are running the project, the country is either with a local representative or the project is a Kenyan project, but they've deployed it in other countries. So in terms of payments and everything in most cases it comes from Kenya. And in cases, for instance, if say one of the other countries wants to pay for their monthly usage, maybe Kenya is falling behind, then it's not my responsibility, it's the client's responsibility to communicate with them. All I need is the money in their account. So it's not a problem I've had to deal with. It's something I'm looking at more closely, especially now that we've ventured into the UK market. And the UK on issues of data and everything is very protective. And we are working in the healthcare sector, so it's a bit sensitive, but we are again started with a private healthcare as our first client. And once the project kicks off, while we are working on that, then we are looking at all the legal implications, but mainly it's around the Data Protection Act, nothing to do with finances or so it's something once you get, or just knowing your client and then knowing how to manage the contract. And in most cases, I would prefer to sign the contracts here. Yeah, honestly, like we're running the project. We're in Uganda, we are in Zambia, we are in Tanzania and Rwanda. None of my team has ever been into any of those countries so far. The client will come, they have their representatives teams here. So we just run everything from here, and they manage their training. So we train the team here and they go train their trainers on the ground. So you can manage it. Again, it depends on the project. So this is really with my experience, but if you can avoid having those contracts outside and keep them here, just offer the service outside, then just stick here. Yeah. Oh yeah. So when it comes to needs assessment, I've been a victim of that, and that's why I said there are times when you get to that point where you have to make the decision. It's either I fire the clients. Like, you start on a project, you've agreed on budgets, but this project is never ending. They keep, thinking, oh, if we add this. So it's just whether you finish in time or you try and work with your timelines, but if you finish ahead, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean the client shouldn't pay for the entire agreed project. And try and there's a document we call a blueprint, and I'm sure you all use that. Make sure before you kick off on any project, I forgot to mention this, get the clients to sign off on the blueprint. A blueprint document is basically when you meet the client at first, they think they know what they want. Then when you agree on something, they go and ask the other users, and everybody has an idea. I want this, I want that. So there's always that grace period. Give your client, don't just jump into a project or agree, yes, I'll take X amount. Give them time, because if they've been running without it, chances are they're willing to wait to have something done right. So give yourself a period to make sure all the parties involved or the end users have been involved, because there are times maybe the head of just take like payroll things, they know everything, oh, we use this. Then when you go on the ground, or maybe let me just use HR, because HR is a very complex discipline and there is a lot of documentation involved. So you're sitting with the project representative and they'll want to make things look so easy, like everything works. It's just we need to move this from here to here. Then now you start engaging with the users and the users tell you, actually, this is not how we do it. He doesn't know. This is the document. Then they start pulling out documents, from everywhere. So to avoid that, never get into a project before all the users or all the stakeholders, I'd call them, are involved. Get them to be part of the blueprint. Spend time on the ground, especially if you have access or you have that opportunity. Before you start writing any piece of code, spend time on the ground. See how they do things. Then document everything, then get all the users to sign off. So when you're discussing timelines and and costs, this is what we need to do and this is what we can achieve. Then stick it. In most cases, it will change because even the users think they know. But make it clear that for this budget, we agreed I'm going to deliver on A, B, C, D. Then if anything new crops up, make it clear from the word go that you're going to pay for it. Chances are, if they ask for something and it's not really important and they know it's gonna cost them more, they'll leave it out. Yeah. And sometimes you also guide them, you probably don't need this. It's when once you understand what they're trying to achieve, to some extent it becomes your responsibility to guide them, or they want to achieve something, but you've done it in a different way. So it's just a change of mindset to tell them this is actually already working in this system, it's just doing it, and you can switch instead of starting to redesign all over again. It's going to cost us less time, it's going to cost you less money. So it's just change management, which again varies depending on the users and what they have previously. If you find like if you go into an organization where everything is paper, for instance, for my case, and they have nothing, they've never looked at any system, it's very easy to work with them because then you're able to give them what will work or has been tested and is working. But if you go to another organization that maybe has had systems, or their employees who've worked in other organizations that had systems, there'll always be this mentality that something has to be in this particular form. But now it's you during the blueprint phase to look at it and tell them, actually, you can still achieve the same process using this. Then that means less time for us and less cost for you. But if you really think you want to change this process, then it's gonna cost you. Chances are they will use what is already working. So it's and it will happen over and over again, depending on the organizations, it will be different. But now, once you get into the SaaS model, if you're offering a software as a service, then you have more control of that because you're telling the client, this is what is there, use it as it is. So before they start thinking about what else can we do, they'll already have consumed what is already working, and they might be comfortable with that. But if there is something significant missing, then you're only focusing on that, and then it just saves on the cost and time on both ends.
Hi.
Hi.
I have two questions. One is sort of a by the way, but let me just start with. You've mentioned that you're in different countries. You mentioned that you're working on different projects, and you've mentioned about your team. I understand probably because of time you can really get into the details, but perhaps maybe an overview of what exactly you've done so far, how big your team is, what are you working and things like what are you working on currently, what are your products right now, what do you have? And then another thing is, do you have, sorry, your the way you operate, is it that you've already built out projects and then looking for clients for them, or you go as in custom every time? Look at a problem, develop a solution for it, then try find customers for it. As in as right now, how do you operate? Yeah. And then the as a by the way question is, do you develop primarily on Windows?
So because of time, I want one each, one, and one from her. So, by the way, you catch her during lunchtime.
So yeah, just maybe then the overview of where you are as of now, just what you're doing, your team. I'm saying so where you are at as of now. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I did touch a bit on that. So my core project was, it's called Akida, the mobile app, and that's what I wanted to do from the word go. But then with the need to develop the HR and payroll system, I ended up developing a separate product that we call UPay, that basically automates the entire organization operations. And we target organizations that have large workforces. If you I mean, they call them, it's a piece rate model. So you'll find their systems, they're working HR and payroll systems, but a lot of them don't focus on the piece rate model, where guys are paid either for days they've worked or tasks they've done. Typical in the security industry, horticulture, and the hospitality industry. So we've already spent time within those industries working with different clients, learning from them how they do it. So it's in some cases we still have to tweak, because some organizations want or will want something around payroll, they'll want to tweaks, but we build a standard product that basically can work or can manage that kind of operation and customized it for the local market. Then now the mobile app has a web interface. So we started by just attendance verification, and then we built the module for data collection that now drives the analytics that we've integrated with Power BI. And then when we got into the UK market, there was, okay, my assumption was, everything in the UK works, but that's not the true picture. I spent September, the entire of September and part of November within the care sector. Basically, they look after patients with dementia, and you need to report like on everything that is happening in regard to that patient. But now, for you to be, I know it's not a common topic. Dementia is not a common topic in Kenya, but it's basically where your brain cells or part of your brain cells die, and depending on which part of your brain cells die, then your behavior changes. So I know here some people have been mistaken to be mad, but now looking at it after spending time there, I realize we might be having very many casualties of dementia. And basically, it can't be treated. So you just need to give care to this person until, their time elapses. So you need to understand this person, like their background, what they used to like when they were normal, the kind of places they visited, basically dig into their history. This is not HR, this is a patient. So we started by understanding the care management from the care assessment, and then now with the app, it drives the day-to-day reporting. So you have the history of the patient, and then now you have to report from the time they wake up. What time did they wake up? Did they get out of bed? What did you offer them to eat? Did they eat all of it, or did they not eat? And then because of the brain being affected, they fall a lot. And that's something that the UK government is very keen on. Like, they want to be sure they are looked after well, they're in a safe environment. So you have to record every time they fall, where did they fall, what time did they fall. And then every week you have to submit a report to the CQC, that's the Care Quality Commission, showing analysis of all the patients that fell, where they fell, and then they're able to, when they come for inspection, then they can come and check. If a lot of people are falling on the lounge, then probably we need to do away with this. So we've already implemented that as well, alongside with a basic HR module that captures details of the carers that look after these care patients. So I'm at a point where we're not focusing on building new products, just the two core products, but it's everything to do with human resource. Chances are it's going to change. And you have to be willing and open to learn and integrate, because there was clear need for data collection and for analytics when I went to the UK. But then if you don't have the care module, you're reporting against a patient. If you don't have somewhere you can profile and have all their details to be able to link back to, then you don't have a solution. Then you are forced to build on that. So depending on the environment, is going to change. So that's what we are looking to focus on, like the healthcare sector, specifically the